Okay, so we continue. Okay, we continue with this speciation. So the idea of speciations here is to develop new species. Okay, to develop new species. So in order to develop new species, the first thing, reproductive isolations must take place. Okay, when a population become reproductively isolated from the other populations of the species. Okay, now what means this mean? Basically means that initially they are interbreeding, so nothing stopped them from interbreeding. So means that they, I mean, among themselves they have the constant gene flow. So gene flow is very important to reduce the divergence in the genetic composition. This is very important. Are you clear? Reduce the constant gene flow reduce the divergence, so makes them almost similar in the gene pool. Are you clear? Okay, so the two gene pool, the gene pool of two separate populations begin to diverge in the genetic compositions. Why? Because they what? Okay, just like I say that if there's no constant gene flow, so increase the divergence. So we increase the divergence, so means that, okay, because they cannot, let's say something block them. So I mean, whatever happened in the population, subpopulation B compared to A, they are totally different and they cannot exchange allele. Can you see that? They cannot exchange allele. So it basically, try to imagine that if there's no constant gene flow, I have the blue color, okay, water here, okay, and red color water. So you recognize them, there's two different chroma. But if there is a constant gene flow, if let's say I transfer some of the blue color here and then the red, so make both of them become purple, right? Okay, I transfer blue, I transfer red, so they are more similar. So the gene pool won't be diverged if there is a constant gene flow. But if there is a reproductive isolation, if there is a reproductive isolation, means that no gene flow, definitely blue will stay as blue, red will continue to stay as the red. So if this continue, then we will, know that, okay, the same populations, speciations will take place. Okay, so when the population is sufficiently different from the ancestral species, there's no genetic exchange, no gene flow, speciations occur. So we have two ways: we have allopatric speciation and sympatric. Allo means that's a different location. Means that they're separated into two different locations. So that's why speciation take place. Sympatric means same location. Okay, same location. So we're going to study with the first one, allopatric speciations. So the idea here means that the population become geographically separated. So in this idea, they are geographical isolations. Okay, geographical isolation take place. So from the rise of the species and subsequently evolved by the natural selection. So this one is known as allopatric speciation. Okay, so allopatric speciation is the most common method of speciation occur amongst all the evolution. Is the most common one. So the geographical isolations can be, for example, normal, the river shifting their course, glacier migrations, mountain range forming due to the earth crust tectonic plates movement, land bridge forming, okay, or lakes, a large lake because due to the drought, then it will develop into several smaller lakes. And in this case, you can see that there are geographical isolations take place. Geographic isolations take place. So generally, you can see that initially they are the same species, they are from the same species, same populations, but because of the mountain range, that will happen here is because at the site, two different sites, now you can see that they stop interbreeding. Can you see that they can't interbreed? So if they can't interbreed, whatever natural selection take place in the subpopulation A and subpopulation B, you can see that. So we call this a subpopulation. Okay, subpopulation. So this subpopulation and the second subpopulation, they are no longer can interbreed, no gene flow, natural selection take place, mutation take place, no gene flow, so means that they're genetically diverged. For example, this site, okay, there may be a certain predator or sunlight high, sunlight more. This one, sunlight less. So in this case, you can see that in when over a long period of time mutation take place, there are no constant gene flow. Over a period of times, they won't be able to reproduce and produce fertile offspring anymore. So one geographic separation has occurred, the separated gene pool become diverged and they stop interbreeding. No, okay, we see that. No gene flow. So natural selections may alter the allele frequency. So this mutation take place. We have the new different variations. So the isolated subpopulation eventually fail to interbreed with the parental population, even though the barrier is removed, giving rise to a new species now. Okay. So what we always write, okay, if the question asks, so the first thing, they must be geographical isolated, geographical barrier. They must have geographical barrier that act as the geographical isolations. Second, due to the natural selections, okay, and also mutation, the random mutation at the subpopulations. So third, then no gene flow. Number four, then when no gene flow means that there is a diverge in the gene pool. So means that now no longer can interbreed to produce fertile offspring. Over a long period of times, they no longer now can interbreed, even though the barrier is removed. Okay. So the one other example is this mosquito fish, a mosquito fish. So you can see that the fish, the under, okay. So initially they belongs to the same species, same population. Oh, sorry, not this way. Try to imagine that. So initially, it means there is a high rise of the water level, okay. But because of the drought conditions, now they separated into two. So because of these two, they have different natural selection force. One of these we call under high predation. So high predation, you can see the body shape. You can see the body shape. So this body shape shows that the fish actually can swim fast because they need to escape. Okay, swim fast, escape from the predator. Under low predations, you can see that the body shape actually different. Okay, because those that can escape from the predator will be able to survive and pass on this body shape allele to the next generation. But under low predation, they don't have, so means that they do not need to swim or escape from the predator. They don't need to swim fast, so they adapt to swim long. Can I see that? So over a long period of time, when, let's say for example, raining already, so fill up the lake. So even though both of them meet, because the body shape difference now, they cannot recognize each other and they no longer interbreed, and we say that speciation actually take place. Okay, so you can try these questions, these activities. So I'll stop for a while, then you can check the answer later. Okay. So some other example evidence are Galapagos finches and also the squirrel at the Arizona Grand Canyons. Okay, so in the Galapagos is South America, where this island called Galapagos Islands. It's not one island, but a series of islands, and they are separated. So each island, they have their own. Okay, you can see that each island, they have their own natural selection force. And the finches here, they are no geographically isolated. There's no constant gene flow. So over a long period of time, you can see that they develop from the common ancestor, they develop into the different kinds of the finches. It depends on, okay, for example, seed eater. So you can see that the beak will be something larger. Okay, so bud eater, insect eater, so they have developed. So those with the best developments or best characteristic, they will be able to continue, okay, to survive, because they get sufficient food supply, they'll be able to survive and pass on the allele to the next generations. Okay, so that's why you can see that different what we call these beads. Okay, the size of the beads form in that particular islands. Different islands, you can see that. So a speciation actually take place. Okay, another one is the Arizona Grand Canyons form. So Arizona Grand Canyons, squirrel and other small mammals, they had once been a part of a single population, no longer contact and reproduce with each other. So they are no longer interbreeds. The squirrel population underwent what we call the allopatric speciation. So the kaibab squirrel, okay, and also the Albert squirrel. So it's in the process of the speciation. So on the other hand, you can see that the birds and other species that could easily cross the barrier continue to interbreed, so no developments of the new species. Okay, so in this case, you can see that eventually they will develop the new species because first they can no longer recognize. Even though we put them together, they can't recognize. So behavioral. So it starts with the geographical. Okay, so for example, if I put you in, okay, I put you in the jungle, okay, and then a population in the jungle for many generations. Are you clear? Many generations without the handphone, without the iPad, everything, and suddenly I could give you iPad. You can't. I mean, the new generations in the jungle, they won't recognize that as a iPads. Can you see that? Because they no longer recognize. So behaviorally, they won't interbreed. Therefore, they are what we call these are reproductively isolated. Reproductively isolated. Okay. So with this, I have done for reproductive isolations. So stop recording first.